everybody out there, and you know me. What's up? This is Dave Slayer here. JIP asked for my testimony on video here, so I'll give it to you. I'm going to say that this testimony isn't as dramatic and as exciting and thrilling as some, but it's exciting to me to give it, to tell you how I came to the Lord. Anyway, I'll start by saying my name's Dave Smith, not Dave Slayer. I got the nickname Dave Slayer in high school. I used to listen to a band called Slayer, and I wore the Slayer t-shirt, Slayer hats. I had Slayer in my Walkman, bumping, you know, grooving. So people call me Dave Slayer, you know, and I've kept that name. And, you know, I don't listen to Slayer now, of course, you know, because the music was satanic. It was trashy. So I had to throw it in the trash. You know, it was no good. Anyway, now people just say, well, you know, now you can call yourself Dave Slayer, the Demon Slayer. So, you know, that's another way to look at it. I don't know if I'd, you know, call it that, but I kept the name Dave Slayer because it sounded cool, you know. Anyways, when I was younger, I never really went to church. My parents and family went a few times. I remember going, but I don't think they went because they had a personal relationship with Jesus. Of course, God only knows that, but I just don't think that's why they went. You know, maybe they went because it was fun, something to do, or whatever. I don't know. That was a long time ago. But anyway, come about 10th grade, I was 16. I was in class, and this guy had a Heaven's Metal magazine. It was a magazine about Christian metal, so he got me into some Christian metal because I was into heavy metal and stuff like that, so this was interesting to me. So he let me borrow some of his heavy metal tapes, and I'm like, hey, this is cool, man. You know, it sounded just like the secular stuff that I had and the satanic stuff, except it was Christian lyrics. So, you know, as time went on, I borrowed more of his tapes, and I bought some tapes myself eventually of the Christian metal, and, you know, I started to build up my own collection. So that was really cool. So I became friends with this guy, and he introduced me to a friend of his who was also into Christian metal, and they even had a Christian band called Battlefront. So I was friends with these guys throughout high school and talked to them after high school and stuff, but you know, as our friendship would grow on, I would call him on the phone, you know, talk to him about, you know, metal and God and stuff like that, and I would have questions, and I asked a lot of questions about God. You know, I was curious about God, you know, at the time, and so I asked him a lot of questions and found out a lot of answers, but I still had the mindset, well, you know, I'm still young, there's things I want to do, I'll get saved sometime, but, you know, I'm not going to do it today. And so, you know, they're like, well, you know, tomorrow's not promised. You might not have till tomorrow. And I'm like, well, yeah. We'll see what happens. Surely enough, I did get saved. It was December 26th of 1996 that I got saved. But I may not have even been here if it wasn't for this one incident. I rode my bike to a convenience store one day to get some candy or pop or something like that. You know, the stuff teenagers love, you know. Anyway, I was on my bike, you know, going down this road, right? And I was on the left-hand side of the road, so I could see traffic coming at me. I just like doing it that way. But anyway, I was riding my bike down the road, just pedaling away, sweating and all that good stuff. And there was a truck. I noticed it was coming, it was in the center, but it started going closer and closer to me, you know, to the left where I was, and boom, it hit me, and I fell over. You know, I remember seeing the truck coming at me, and, you know, I remember at the last minute just kind of leaning to the left. And, you know, so when I realized I was down, my arms, you know, was hurting really bad, so I knew my arm was broken. So I went to the hospital and got a cast and all that. But anyway, I believe that it was an angel, or God, you know, was looking out for me that night. You know, he had a plan for my life, and, you know, so I thank God every day, you know, that I'm here. You know, he didn't have to spare my life, but he did, and I'm thankful for that. But I got saved, you know, on December 26th of 1996. I had some, you know, mentors of mine that I knew, you know, and I called one of them one night, and I told him, you know, I wanted to give my life to the Lord, and I went to his house, and he showed me a videotape of a preacher dude, and I don't remember, you know, who he was, but at the end of the sermon, he gave an altar call and said, you know, the sinner's prayer, or whatever it is, and anyway, I said the prayer and meant what I said. because it's not the prayer that saves you. It's, you know, it's the trusting in Jesus. It's the repenting. It's the asking God for forgiveness that saves. And I felt really good, and I felt a fire inside me that I've never felt before. And I drove home that night, you know, feeling different than I've ever felt before, like I was heading in a different direction. You know, and even though at the time I didn't really understand where I was going, I understand all that now. And it's been 13 years, and each year I've learned more and more and more, and I've become, you know, a much stronger Christian now and made some Christian friends, and I started reading the Bible more, praying more, going to church more and stuff like that. And, you know, it's really helped, you know, my walk with the Lord, you know, very much. And but I'm learning every day. Every day I learn something new, and I've made good friends, and they've, you know, taught me a lot of things too about God and the Bible and about their walks with the Lord, and you know, that's helped encourage me in many ways. And I've met some great people over the years, especially at You Know Me. You know, it's like my home on the internet, my home away from home, and I appreciate all of you guys. You guys know who you are. I don't have to, you know, say all your names, but you know who you are, and I'm glad that you guys are in my life and that God has placed you guys in my life, and it's really been a blessing. And another blessing that I've had is Christian music. I had about 800 Christian secular, I had about 800 secular tapes at one point, and a lot of them were satanic, and a lot of them had bad language and were sexual, immoral, and stuff like that. And I tossed a lot of that stuff out, you know. And I have a lot of Christian music now, and I just like hearing about God in the music. You know, some people say, well, you know, I don't mind hearing about God in church, but then I don't want to go home and have to hear about Him all night. But to me, I just like to hear about God more in songs and stuff. That way I'm being entertained and being fed the Word at the same time, and it just encourages me, and, you know, helps keep my spirits up, and you know, gets me in a good mood and stuff like that. So that's really helped me. And you know, a lot of the secular music, I just couldn't listen to it comfortably anymore. It's like, wait a minute, you know, I believe in Jesus, and this stuff here, you know, is blaspheming the name of the Lord. It's like, I don't want to listen to this stuff anymore, and I don't want to hear about someone else's sex life. You know, close the door. You know, that's what marriage is for. You know, and so anyway, I got rid of a lot of that, and that's really helped me out a lot. And there's a few secular stuff that I have, but for the most part, I have Christian, and it's just really helped me. But anyway, I'm blabbing, and I'm probably boring you all to death. But anyway, thanks for watching my testimony, and I'm sure that I'll be looking forward to your testimonies if you guys feel so led to make a video. So anyway, thanks for watching, and God bless. See ya!